Welcome back to the Draft and Stash, your one-stop shop for NBA news, but also all of your Memphis Grizzlies news. Joining me as always is Frank.
Hey.
On today's show, we are doing something very special. It's mock draft season, but before that, we got to hit that intro, man.
Morant with a running start. Oh my goodness!
Today's show is double special as we have a guest, Chip Williams from I Got a Ball podcast, and our draft guru. Chip, how are we doing today, man?
Great, man. Appreciate you guys having me on. Excited to do some mock with you.
Dude, it's crazy because I feel like I've been talking about you so much that you're almost like a mythical, person or whatever, but like it's not like, you are actually real. So like, I'm not like a crazy person or anything. I know in the past we have talked about that. This is kind of like our favorite part about basketball is the draft season and everything. Are you in the bandwagon that the Thunder and Pelicans are so far like ahead of the curve because of all of their extra draft picks? Or do you think it's a little like overblown?
I definitely think you always want to have more shots at a good player, and the way you get that is by accumulating draft picks. Now, both those teams have like beyond what is a lot of draft picks. They have more draft picks than probably several teams combined. I mean, the Grizzlies have a couple of extra draft picks coming up over the next few years, but I mean, these guys, what they've gotten for Drew Holiday and Paul George and some of the trades that they've made, I don't see how they're going to make all of them, but I think what that'll give them is an opportunity to flip some of those for, a veteran if they ever reach that point.
I mean, I think it always sounds really like fun and sexy to have a bunch of draft picks, but as we've seen in the past, Boston, I don't want to say failed, but they were the first real team to start like amassing picks based on things. And the last three drafts, they've tried to actually package a lot of those picks, like a move up for a player or something, and it just hasn't happened. I think it's easy on paper to say, oh, this is really great. But at the end of the day, you can't have 19 rookies, so it's it's going to have to be a mixture of vets of certain ages or whatever, which is why I'm kind of like on the fence about the whole like not an hour like a timeline thing where it's like, like people don't want to bring in players who were like 28 and 29 because John and Jaren are both like, 20, like 21. I mean, like, I think you have to like amass people who are just really good. Regardless of age. Now that said, I don't want to go get like a 37-year-old, like guy or anything or whatever. But I mean, like if a guy like Oladipo is available, I would not be opposed to that based strictly on like his age. Now, I also don't want to pay him $400 million, a year or whatever and stuff. But I think it's all about the current opportunity, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and, Philly was another team that did that with the process, and you see both those teams, they hit on some high picks. But what I think is such a credit to what the Grizzlies front office has done since this new regime came in is hitting on the later picks. That's the hardest part in the draft because it gets to be such a crapshoot. We've seen that from the Celtics. As soon as they reached a certain level, started getting into the playoffs. Now, some of these rookies that they hoped would come in and be able to help them take that next leap, they haven't been able to do it. So Grizzlies hitting on some of these late picks is it's impressive because it is a bit of a crapshoot once you get that late in the draft.
And not only that, but we've seen teams like the Kings and the Suns have multiple top 10 picks in multiple drafts and just miss on everything.
Yep.
So it's nice to have those picks, but you have to have a front office that knows what the hell is going on. But back in 2017, when we did like our very first episode, they drafted like Dragan Bender, and I think they moved up to get Chris.
Yeah.
And both were just huge flops. So, it's hard. It doesn't matter if you're pick 2 or 4, 6 sometimes, it's still like a crapshoot.
It definitely is.
So let's move on to the fun part, and that is the mock draft. Guys, what we're going to do is we are on the NBA Real GM here. It's going to allow us to create our own lottery simulation, so we don't even know which teams it's going to be. But the pick order is going to be Frank, Chip, and then myself, and we will continue in that order until we get through it. We're going to be doing the entire first round. We're going to try to move as fast as we can, but this will probably be 2 videos, 1 lottery, 1 first round here. So let us find out what the order is going to be here, actually. So OKC is going to be first from the Houston pick. Apparently, that's a huge jump there, man. So Frank, you get the first pick here, man. Who's it going to be, dude?
All right. Well, you look at OKC, what they need. It's definitely not a point guard. They got SGA. He's the guy of the future for them. But, I think you look at the top of the draft, and there's three guys that have kind of separated themselves. Evan Mobley, Cade Cunningham, and Jalen Suggs, at least in my eyes. And I think you'd be hard-pressed to kind of take – I don't know. I want to go with Cade Cunningham here, but for team fit, Evan Mobley might be better. They're in dire need of a big man. I think Cade Cunningham's the top overall prospect, hands down, though. Let me break out the old tuning fork. See what. Okay, we're gonna go Cade Cunningham.
Okay,
6'8" guard, playmaking, elite vision. Spacing might be a problem for him in the NBA. He's 6'8". He's struggled in a too big offense in college, but I think the skills he's got, he's a good shooter. He's developed into a good shooter, excellent free throw shooter, amazing playmaker. Taking him at the top of the draft, I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone better. And I think the OKC would be happy to take him. And also, just talking a little bit more about SGA. Yeah, the fit's not great with a 6'8" point guard. But I think both of these guys have the capability to play the off-ball position. And I think that would be a pretty scary two-guard lineup. If you have two guys with the wingspan, I think we've talked about it before with SGA. He's got sort of like an alien-esque wingspan. It's kind of a similar thing here with Cade Cunningham. He's got an over 7-foot wingspan. Crazy athlete. I think it'd be a really scary backcourt.
Chip and I have talked about this, and I'm not the biggest fan of Cunningham. Now I see all of his tools. I see that he's going to be a very successful player, and he'll be like I've kind of joked that he's like an Evan Turner 2.0 or whatever. I just don't see next level speed from him, which
that's the knock against him.
Maybe it won't be a factor. Maybe it will. To me, if I'm number one, I want to get a guy that has a huge shot at being like a top player in the next 5 years or so, whatever. And so Cade for me is in my top three. He's not my number one though. Chip, you're a huge fan. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I love Cade. I do think that you guys are right. There's kind of 3 or 4 guys who are starting to separate themselves from everyone else in this draft. But to me, it's Cade came in day one as the best prospect in this class, and he's done nothing to lose that. In fact, what he's shown as a shooter is significantly better than I think anyone thought coming in. It's
but yeah.
Yeah, and he's really, really got a pretty impressive shooting season as a freshman at Oklahoma State. And it's kind of a unique situation. We've seen this with Markelle Fultz went to Washington, Ben Simmons went to LSU. Some of these guys who come in as high picks, they're going to these non-traditional powers, right? And they're relied on so much so early to produce at a high level, and Cade's done that. And so the fit, I love SGA. I'm president of the SGA fan club. He's one of my favorite dudes to watch in the league. So pairing him with Cade, that's awesome. I got to say, as the guy who owns the next pick, I was really hoping you were going to go with Evan Mobley, but I understand why you went with Cade.
So are you not concerned at all that his turnover numbers are above his assist numbers?
Yeah, that is definitely the most concerning part. It's the most disappointing part. But again, I think you can explain it away a little bit with the fact that he so much is thrown on his shoulders offensively at a young age at Oklahoma State. And look, he's not going to walk in the league and be an all-star year one. But I think we've seen it. He reminds you a little bit of a Luka Doncic in terms of a really big guy who can play a lot of different positions. Really, he can fit with whatever else is around your team. And then the shooting, it also just opens up the offense and opens up the options that a coach can throw out there. So I think long term, the playmaking that he has does not concern me. But yeah, you're right. That is definitely something you need to talk about because it's been disappointing.
That he could be like another version of Ben Simmons with a better jumper. Which if that's the case, then yeah, he's obviously top guy or whatever and stuff.
Not quite the athlete Ben Simmons is, I don't think.
Yeah, that's totally fair. So you're on the board here. Number 2, it's the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the Warriors don't get that pick. Who do you got?
Yeah, this is tough. I like Evan Mobley as probably the second best player on the board. But with Towns, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. So I'm actually going to go with one of my favorites, Jalen Suggs, the point guard or combo guard from Gonzaga. I love Jalen Suggs. He's big, physical, strong guy. If he had been in this previous year's draft, the 2020 draft, he probably would have been the consensus best player in that draft. There's a lot to like about him. The shooting hasn't been, I think, what some people think it could be. But what he's done, sliding into probably the best college basketball team in the country, really taking a leadership role, putting up phenomenal numbers. There's a lot to like. It honestly, to be frank with you, from a Minnesota perspective, it makes D'Angelo Russell a little expendable, and now you can shop him around and see what you can add around Towns, Suggs, and Anthony Edwards.
It's so funny that so they didn't take Ball, who was the obvious choice there or whatever.
Yeah.
Because like Russell and Towns are like friends, and so and the whole thing it was making Towns happy, but they still suck. And so now, like there's another great guard. They're like, oh well, let's pass on like another good guard because we have Russell, and it's like Russell's one of the worst players on defense in the entire NBA. Like he's just awful at it or whatever. So I mean, as long as he's there and Beasley's there and Towns there, they're going to get exposed nightly. So I mean, like Suggs, I think him or Cade will be great there. I love Suggs. I originally I thought it was like a lot of hype, and then I've watched a few of his games, and he makes so many smart plays. He gets better. He hits the glass. He can his athleticism is not next level great, but it's better than Cade's. So I'm not worried about him, like having problems passing people and stuff or whatever. But he's very good also.
Yeah. Yeah, I can say again, as the Timberwolves' new general manager, we're very happy with Jalen Suggs.
And we're also moving on. All right. So I guess we picked 3, and I am a huge fan of Jalen Green. He is my guy. I look at him, and I mentioned to Frank that I think he's like a better version of like Nick Young. And like Nick Young came in like years ago, and it was like top level, like high school project. He never quite hit that next level, and I think it's because he wasn't like a great worker. Jalen Green to me looks like that dude who could be a top player or whatever, in this league, not like a Kobe Bryant level like guy or whatever, but he has all the tools physically or whatever. He he's not great at defense. He's kind of small body right now, but I think eventually he'll get there. And he's looked good, for the like in G League team and stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge Jalen Green fan. You mentioned his body. I think that's what stood out the most watching him go up against adults. He will try to drive into the paint, and all of a sudden he just bounces off some guy. And so you can clearly see that he's going to need to put on some weight and some strength, but that talent's undeniable. The leaping ability, he's got a pretty smooth shot.
His handle's nice or whatever. His game, it's just he has all the tools necessary at this level, and then more. It's just he's not physically ready yet to actually be like a stud. So it's almost like a Brandon Ingram. It's like he came in and clearly had talent, but it took him 2-3 years to like finally like get there and stuff. Whatever. So I could easily see Green being like a top 10 guy like in 3 or 4 years or so.
There's a couple knocks against him. Like he's a scorer, but he plays kind of an ISO heavy game. His defense is a little inconsistent times at times. We've seen it in the G League, but I think what you guys are saying is right. If he can kind of fill out that 6'5" frame, get a little bit stronger, handle the much bigger guys in the NBA, the defense will start to get a little bit better. And I think in an NBA offense, ISO heavy ball just kind of isn't the way to go. So I think it'd be worked into offenses a little bit better as well.
Well, we are back to Frank here. The board is yours, man. You are the Pistons right now.
Drafting for the Pistons. All right. It's kind of a blank slate with those guys. So we've got Jalen Suggs, Jalen Green, Cade Cunningham off the board. So I think Evan Mobley needs to go here, especially because the the Pistons are in need of a center, a young center. What can you say about the dude? He's a 7-foot stud. He plays excellent defense. His offensive game was developing throughout his 1 year in college. And 16.2. Look at the stats. Just fills it up. 58.2% field goal percentage. Excellent. And I think he'd be an excellent fit there.
He's another guy that I think needs to add muscle. It's weird because we were talking earlier that like a lot of these guys are like 6'4", not 6'5", but nobody's built like men anymore. Almost, it's like that they come in and they're so used to being like these like high level fast guys, whatever that like they're all like kind of like these like thin like builds now. So like a guy like Xavier Tillman comes in and looks like a 30-year-old man already.
Yeah.
Because Mobley has a lot of talent, awesome athlete, very smart. But yeah, I worry about him getting on. Like, who's the kid for the Pelicans? Jason Alexander, right? Wrong?
Jackson Hayes.
Yeah.
Close.
Yeah, I was like Jay's in there. He is kind of like in that same camp where he has obvious talent, but like his body doesn't let him really like be like on the court. He gets bodied easily. So I mean, like Mobley has way more talent than him, though. I like but yeah,
he's got like franchise center potential. Honestly, man, like you look at the kid, he could really develop into a stud.
I totally agree. He's one of my favorites in this whole draft. I think he could possibly be some sort of evolution of like a Duncan-ish player who's just a smooth operator on both ends. Tremendous. He can really be the anchor of a defense, but also can kind of be the guy an offense goes through. He's got a nice looking stroke. You think that's going to develop. Really just a smooth, comfortable player who's got a lot of functional athleticism. I think the guy's going to be a stud pretty early on at the next level.
Okay. Do you like the fit for the Pistons?
Yeah, I mean, they took Killian Hayes last year, so you got the point guard. Sekou Doumbouya's had some moments where he's looked pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, you can start to see where you're building a team there.
All right. I believe Chip has the next pick here, and that's our board right there for right now for anybody who's wondering.
Orlando.
You are Orlando.
Wow. Okay. Orlando. That's interesting. Let's give them Jonathan Kuminga, Jalen Green's teammate with the Ignite. Of course, right. We need another big-bodied, athletic guy in Orlando. So let's just go ahead and give him one more. Now, I like Kuminga, and he's honestly, to me, he's been probably the Ignite's best player throughout the totality of the G League season. 6'8", 230 pounds, 7-foot wingspan. Explosive in the open court. He can shoot a little bit. He's actually shown some interesting shooting upside, something that a little bit like with Cunningham that has surprised me some. And then defensively, he should be able to switch just about 1 through 5. I mean, he's going to be a Swiss Army knife on that end. So yeah, let's go ahead. They've got a little something going there in Orlando. I like, Markelle Fultz. It's really disappointing that he got injured this season because he looked like he was starting to put it together. So Kuminga, from the G League Ignite. Let's send him to Orlando.
You had I'm sorry that like I was saying that like most of these guys have like small builds. Like he's not one of those guys. Like,
no,
that like man body, and everything early on. So like he'll be able to come in immediately like and bang and stuff over. So like it'll be nice.
And he's super young, man. I think the youngest guy in the draft. He's like 18 still.
Yeah,
comes in. He has massive potential to just keep building on his game. So, but I think talking a little bit about the fit in Orlando. Could be a really, really, really strong backcourt or front court with him and a healthy Jonathan Isaac. He's been out for the season. Jonathan Isaac is basically a 7-footer. He's listed as a power forward, but he could play a modern 5, and Kuminga would slide right next to him. I think it'd be a great fit. So I think good pick.
All right, so the Kings are up next. Man, like I love Fox. Bagley's kind of been like a disappointment. So far.
Yeah.
Look at players here, and I don't know if Buddy Hield is their future there. It might be like Halliburton. So I'm trying to think of probably like a good wing for them that could work. I like Zaire Lynn. I don't know if he should go this high. Jalen Johnson might be that guy for me. I think he has a lot of the tools. My biggest complaint with him is his motor. We've seen that Duke has kind of gotten better since he's been gone, which is very, very weird, to think. But like guys like him do not come along very often. He's got great size, great athlete. He seems very capable in like most ways. He wasn't as good as Duke had hoped. His scoring wasn't as like effortless as I think that they were hoping that like it would be. But I think he's a really good prospect still.
Yeah, I think he's got quite a ways to go on the offensive end before he makes a big impact in the NBA. But we're talking about guys who come in NBA ready. Like, no one's going to push this guy around day one. Like, he comes in ready to play on the defensive end. And another guy similar to Kuminga in this way, where you expect him to be able to really switch pretty fluidly 1 through 5 on the defensive end and be able to guard anybody. So if you can just work with him offensively, have some patience, kind of help him come along there, I think that this guy could turn out to be a pretty fun pro.
Yeah, I like Jalen Johnson on the Kings. I think he slides in pretty well there. They have Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox as their point guard, Tyrese Halliburton they just took last year. So they have a lot of smaller guards. I think a wing, like you've mentioned like you said before, I think it is a good pick for him here. They do need the size. So,
all right, awesome. I think Frank is the next guy here. That is our big board so far. So you have the Wizards at 7.
The Wiz.
Wizards.
So yeah, just looking at a couple of their young guys they've taken. I know they're sort of still in the playoff push, but pretty soon here they're going to be looking at a rebuild. I think Beal's not long for Washington, regardless of what his agent says. So they have Denny Avdia. I think I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah.
The shooting guard has some good size, some skill. He's had sort of a okay first year, but he looks like he has the tools to succeed in the NBA. So they'll be moving forward with him. Same with Rui Hachimura. He's had a quiet start to his career, but again, he's a guy that puts in solid stats every night. Contributes to winning basketball more often than not. So I think both of those guys moving forward will be good for them. So taking that into account, I think they do need a point guard. I know they have Russ, but again, I don't think he's long for them. So I'm just going to take the best point guard off the board here, in my opinion, Sharif Cooper from Auburn. 5'10", so he's a little small for the NBA, but he's got a tremendous amount of skill, and he's slide in there, fit well with these two young guys that they're trying to bring up. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
What do you think, Drew?
Sure. So Cooper's great. I think he come on kind of late because of like violations or something, and ever since he's gotten there, he's looked like the best point guard so far. And I mean, like his numbers are great. He looks like a next level talent on the court. He immediately made Auburn like relevant. I think that either a point guard or a wing there is also good. I wouldn't have minded if you had gone with like Scotty Barnes or something, there. But Cooper could be like a long-term guy there as well. So I don't know.
I like Sharif Cooper. He's a bit of a high volume, big stats kind of guy. But he's really fun. And like you mentioned, he had the eligibility issues. So he got a little bit of a late start, but man, he burst right on the scene and just started really killing it, frankly. And he's undersized a little bit. So there's definitely some knocks on him and some hesitations of how that'll translate when he's going against guys that are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" every night. But man, what you cannot take away anything he's done at Auburn, because he's been phenomenal and really elevated that team to a new level.
It's so weird that 6'1" now is like undersized.
Yeah, I know, right?
5'9". Now it's like got to be 6'3" just to like play like point guard now.
Look at Ja. Ja's 6'3" and he looks tiny out there.
Yeah, he does look tiny.
It's amazing.
All right. So moving on from there, I believe Chip has the next pick, and that is the terrible Pelicans that we all hate.
Oh, wow. The Pelicans. Okay. It's kind of interesting with them. So I'm actually going to take probably my favorite prospect to end up if the Grizzlies are able to get relatively high. I'm going to take my favorite guy for them. That's Moses Moody from Arkansas.
Oh, you bastard. Okay. My God.
Moses Moody if you just kind of looked up in the dictionary a 3-and-D wing, it's going to have Moses Moody right next to it. He is really what the Pelicans need, I think. They have plenty of stars, I think, on this team between Ingram and Zion. Just those two guys alone, I mean, they're going to take a whole lot of shots. And the offense is really going to run through them. But you put a guy like Moses Moody, who has ideal size, should be able to defend in the NBA, already a high volume, good shooter, and has played really well his one season in Arkansas. I think it's a perfect fit for the Pelicans. And I think, like I said, if the Grizzlies were able to creep up this high, I think it'd be a perfect fit for them as well.
It's annoying because for a while there, he was like not in the top 10. And so I was like, okay, cool. There's a chance of him, falling to us. Like, I love the idea of like wings with Desmond Bane and Moody. Like, oh my God, like they were knocking down everything. It's exactly, like how you said it is. I think he's a next level, like a 3-and-D. Like he's like a Michael Finley. He's going to come in, kill it from my outside. He's not explosive, but he's not a bad athlete. He's also very smart, plays well in the post, amazing wingspan. I think it's like a 7'1" wingspan or something as well. Just awesomely talented. And if he goes this high, I'll be very sad. All right. So it looks like I am next here. We've got the Thunder, man. The Thunder have got 19 picks here. All right. So they took Cade Cunningham in the beginning here. It's weird that they have SGA as a 2. Man, they need a wing in a bad way.
Lou Dort can't do everything for him.
Lou Dort can't do everything for him. That's true. I'm going to go with Scott Barnes here. I think he's multifaceted, that they're building a certain style down there in OKC. I think he would fit right in as like another, almost like another like version of Thabo Cephalosha, like guy. He comes in and he does everything for them. He's just like a winner. And then his shot is not great. I think it'll get there over time. His form is not bad, but he affects the game in so many ways. And I think when you're trying to rebuild, getting guys like that is the first real step before you can start taking lottery pieces that have that like high chance of like success, but also a high chance of failure. I think he's a really safe pick for him there in the top 10. And I think that like Cade Cunningham is that possible all-star. So he's a good like a Shane Battier type guy for them. Yeah,
it's funny. Like I think if you at the end of games kind of unleashed a Scotty Barnes and Lou Dort on the other team, you're going to have to like rename them like 48 Minutes of Hell, because having to go against Scotty Barnes and Lou Dort for 48 minutes sounds miserable. So yeah, I mean, dude, you're starting to build kind of a positionless team with the Thunder between SGA, Dort, Cade Cunningham, now Scotty Barnes. Like, yeah, this is what we talked about at the beginning. Having more shots at this is the way you want to go, because now you just start putting pieces together, see what works, and go from there.
Frank, any thoughts before your next pick?
I think he fits in well there. I think it's a solid pick for all the mentions you guys, or for all the reasons you guys mentioned. I think the defensive fit would be kind of scary with like Dort. They'd be shutting down some teams.
You are the Atlanta Hawks at pick 10.
Okay, so for the Hawks, again, looking at the roster, they're kind of position-wise, they're kind of balanced. They have Trae Young, John Collins, Clint Capella. What they really need is for a wing or a scorer to step up for them. And you saw it in the offseason. Coming in, they added Danilo Gallinari, Bogdan Bogdanovic, kind of looking for that type of guy. So maybe it's time to turn to the draft now to look for that kind of guy. I think right here I would take Keon Johnson from Tennessee. I think his athletic ability is incredible, one of the best athletes in the draft. And I think putting him next to Trae Young and John Collins would make for an exciting athletic team. Like, they'd be throwing lobs all day. But, he's pretty raw as a prospect. He needs to develop more consistency and sort of define his offensive game. And defense is a thing that I think he will, rely pretty heavily on his athleticism in the start of his NBA career. But he profiles as a guy that could develop into a solid defender and, that two-way wing type of guy, like I'm saying they're looking for.
He is out of the gate. He's a great physical specimen. He's got amazing size. He's already built, well. He's awesome on defense, very athletic. I think, him having a reliable jump shot is going to be the difference between him having like a 5-year career and like a 15-year, stint and everything.
For sure.
He could be great for them. They really need a wing that's not terrible at defense. They've got Bogdanovich and Herder and Gallinari,
Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter.
He could be like a replacement for like Collins, because it looks as if like Collins is going to get moved here. I think he could play like a 4-3 role as well.
I like Keon quite. He's got kind of a throwback game a little bit. Like
you're a Bulls fan.
Well, the way he plays offensively, I'm not comparing the two in terms of like level of player, but just the way they played coming out of college is like reminds you a little Dwayne Wade-ish. Like he's just got this ability to get in the lane and just create space and find a shot. Like it's not something we look for a lot right now. We look more towards like the Moses Moody of like, hey, this guy's going to run to a spot and we're going to penetrate, kick, and Moses Moody's going to shoot a 3. But like you can put the ball in Keon's hands and he's going to create something. And then like you guys mentioned, he's a pretty special defensive prospect. So pretty good fit next to Trey. And really, I think a guy who could maybe even take some pressure off of Trey as being really the only creator for the Hawks on the floor so much. So that's a good pick, and I really like the fit.
Is his handle as good as Wade's was in college, or is it?
No. I just in terms of like, how Wade would always try to get like 12, 10 feet from the basket, and then he would just kind of use his strength and size and create something, and just had really nice touch in that area. Keon has done a lot of the same things for Tennessee.
It's weird because you watch him play and you wonder why he didn't start from like day one.
Yeah.
But it's weird. College coaches I don't know if they like to humble people, but it's definitely they don't let freshmen have like a free run all the time.
Yeah, that's Rick Barnes, man. We could do a whole nother podcast on my frustrations with Rick Barnes.
You are the Pacers at 11. Who are we thinking here?
Oh man, so the Pacers are obviously a team that probably feels like they're pretty close to being, and they're not far off contention in the East. So I would imagine they're looking for someone that can come in pretty quickly and contribute early and, play well with Malcolm Brogdon and Sabonis and those guys. And so I'm going to give them, for my money, the best shooting prospect in this draft, and that's Corey Kispert from Gonzaga. I'm just going to see how mad I can make everybody every time I pick this. God. No, Corey Kispert is like a special shooting prospect. I mean, it just doesn't get a whole lot better than this guy, like Duncan Robinson level shooting prospect who adds some athleticism, some perfect size. I mean, not necessarily a guy you might label as a 3-and-D wing, but also a guy that's not going to get you killed on the defensive end. And he's going to be able to just come in day one, play a role, and then expand his game from that. I actually really, really like this fit for player and team.
Yeah, I was originally not a big fan of his because, as you guys know, I don't particularly like players who are white, but I think that they get like overhyped. So when I was watching, I was seeing like random like highlights of him and Suggs, and then eventually like I started to actually watch him, and he can ball, man. He's not slow at all. Like he's got great size. He's got his shot form is amazing, and not only that, it's quick. So it's not like it's like Zaire Williams' biggest thing is that like his form is great, but his whole approach is so slow. Kispert is going to be like an actual, maybe like a bigger like version of like a JJ Redick or something. He's going to come in immediately like have a role. He's also like he's not a young prospect, so he might be closer to being who he is going forward. But when you look at a guy like like a Bain, a Clark or whatever, that's not always a bad thing. Having a guy join who immediately has value, there's a lot like in that whatever. And like Kispert's going to have immediately like a role for like any club.
Yeah, the shooting alone is going to give him a role on any club. 48% on over or about 6 attempts a game. I mean, Come on, that's just elite for college. So yeah.
And it's also weird that the Zags haven't done more when they've had Brandon Clark, Corey Kispert, and like Killian Tilly.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
What's crazy is this is probably their most talented team too. Like they're definitely the best team in the country right now. what Mark Few's doing there is pretty remarkable.
All right, so we're moving on to the Bulls at pick 12. Kobe White is great. I don't know if he is their natural point guard. Zach LaVine, who knows if he's long for them, he might get moved. I didn't like Patrick Williams last year, but who knows? Lauri Markkanen looks to be going backwards, and I still like Carter Jr. So I think that there is a good fundamentals there. There's a lot of, okay talent here. I'm just not really sure exactly what they need. I would assume a wing here. So I probably don't want to go guard. But the problem is that all the guys in this range that I'm looking at, I'm going to go with the guy on my board who's next, and that's Zaire Williams. He's had a weird year where he started out playing very, very well. I think he had a triple-double at one point. And then he got benched, and he's been playing better since he was benched. But there's so much talent there. To me, he's almost like Kyle Anderson 2.0, except with a really good jump shot. His body is going to be a big issue as well. He's also very slight, very small. He's like a 6'8", like John Morant. He's just very, very little. But at some point, I think it's worth a guy of his size and his skill set is not very common. I think you just have to roll the dice sometimes.
Yeah, he's been probably as frustrating as any of these highly talented freshmen coming in, because he was billed as a guy who could really just stroke it. And he struggled. He struggled shooting the ball. And so he's probably fallen to this point because of that. Because otherwise, you're looking at a guy with length, athleticism, shooting ability, in theory, that should be going a whole lot higher. So I really think this is a good spot, to roll the dice and just hope that the shooting becomes what a lot of people think it ultimately will become.
Yeah, talent's not an issue with Williams. I think what really needs to happen is what we've been saying. He needs to fill out that frame, because he's just not going to be able to take it from the level of physicality in the NBA, or at least translate the level of game he was playing at in college. So we'll see.
Yeah. Then I believe Frank gets the pick for the Grizzlies, man.
All right. Well, you guys left me with the scraps, because Corey Kispert would have been perfect. Yeah. And I would have even taken Zaire Williams. But, we need a wing. We need a wing. We've been trying to plug the hole with Kyle Anderson, who I love, but, maybe probably not the answer there. Justice Winslow has come in. The early returns are nice, but, we don't really know what the future is with Justice yet. So looking at what we got left, is Scotty Barnes off the board yet?
He is.
Okay. I thought so. That would have been the obvious choice there. In terms of small forwards, there's not a ton left. Up near the top of the draft, we've got Franz Wagner, Mo Wagner's brother, balling out in Michigan this past year. I think that'd be a solid choice. James Bouknight from UConn. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I'm going to go with the Euro. I'm going to go with Franz Wagner.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I knew you were going to be against that.
I personally love Franz. He's kind of, to me, from a size and length standpoint, he's similar to Zaire, and except he's shot the ball extremely well on a very good team, and has put up really nice numbers on a very good team, and has contributed to winning on a very good team. So I love Franz. I think this is awesome. I think the guy's got size. He does exactly what the Grizzlies are looking for. To me, Frank, this was perfect. It was the obvious pick, and I'm glad that this is the direction you went.
Yeah, sorry I got cut off there for a little bit, but I was going to say I think he fits with the size and the shooting. That's really what the Grizzlies need right now from the wing position. So, and like you said, in Michigan, he's been contributing to the wins they've been getting. He looks great. He's great catch and shoot 3-point guy, which is, we've got one of the better point guards in the league to dish it out to him. So I think
exactly.
Pick.
I got him. Haha. There we go. To me, it's all right.
We finally found Franz, huh?
Finally found him. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I don't know. I think he's another just solid guy that'll come in. He kind of fits the mold that they've been doing, which is taking really smart players. And And I don't know, like he's just okay. I don't know. So like he doesn't really do anything incredibly well. I think he's just like he's like a better like Conchar, you know, like he's just gonna come in. He's got great size. He's a smart player. I don't think he's gonna hurt you out there. I just don't know if he has any one specific skill that like a Bane does or a Tillman does or something or whatever. I mean, what do you think he'll be able to like put his hat on early?
I mean, for me, he can really shoot. I mean, especially this past season, he's 39% on about 3.5 attempts per game. He does a lot of stuff. Like he impacts winning, and he's a really efficient player, really good jump shooter. And with his size, he's going to provide some lineup versatility, especially once you add Jaren Jackson back into the mix. I just think that it's another tool for Taylor Jenkins that can space the floor, gives you some size, gives you some different options and lineup versatility.
Okay.
I think ideally he'd end up being somebody like Mike Dunleavy Jr., just tall, can knock down shots.
Yeah.
You know.
My pick would have been Josh Christopher. I think he is he's like a walking bucket. Consistency is an issue with him, but like we'll talk about him when he gets picked. I believe Chip is next here.
Who do we got? Is it Golden State?
You are Golden State. They are pick 14.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to just give him a guy that they don't need, but I can't believe he slipped this far, and that's Jaden Springer from Tennessee. I think Springer, look, like I said, like I can't even justify it. Like they have Steph Curry. I know that they don't need a lead guard, and they have Klay Thompson. So it's going to be tough for him initially, I think, to crack the rotation. But this is just the best guy on the draft, best guy on the board left in the draft. I think Springer ultimately for me is going to be pretty comfortably a top 10 guy and maybe even knocking on the door of like a top 6-7 guy. Originally, I thought I was going to be much higher on Keon Johnson of the two Tennessee prospects. And I've really, really enjoyed watching Springer play. And if you've kept up with Tennessee season at all, that he missed a few games and their offense just could not create anything, just completely out of sync. They need this guy to basically do everything for them, create shots for himself, create shots for his teammates. I mean, you're looking at a guy who's almost a 50, 47, 80 shooting splits, which is pretty remarkable for a freshman coming into the SEC. And yeah, I think the guy's got immense talent to be either a lead guard or play next to a point guard at the NBA level. And again, like I said, Golden State doesn't need him, but I can't in good faith let this guy slip any further. So I'm taking him.
So let's look at the lottery real quick in terms of who was. Wow, this thing will go. Where we go. Yes, we got. I believe it was Cade Cunningham, Jalen Suggs, Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, Jonathan Kuminga, Jalen Johnson, Sharif Cooper, Moses Moody, Scott Barnes, Keon, Corey Kispert, Zaire, Franz Wagner, and then Jaden Springer. Do y'all think that this is the 14 best guys, or do you think that these will vary based on like who's in like like certain spots?
Yeah, I do think that you probably got 14 of the best like 17 dudes. I think there were no reaches, right? Like I think once you get past maybe pick 6 or so in this draft, it's kind of all about what a team wants and who they prefer over the next guy, right? Like the talent levels are all pretty close. Like we're going to go through and get into the 20s, and we're going to have guys that maybe someone else would prefer to be in the lottery. That's just kind of the way this draft is. It's really deep, and I think it's got a lot of guys who can contribute at a high level in the NBA.
For everybody, that was our lottery. We're going to cut that right here for all you guys, so it's not a crazy long video. For everybody else wanting to hang around and get all the picks, stay tuned.